Namaste. Welcome to this spring practice. And this spring we are going to be working with the Bandha. And so today's class is a little bit of introduction, so make yourselves comfortable for the next few minutes. And I'm just going to introduce you to your Bandha. So there are three main Bandha in the body. The Mula Bandha, which is at the pelvic floor. Effectively, it's a pelvic floor lift and retention, sometimes called the root lock. And this is said to prevent your prana drifting or draining out of the root, the base of the body. There's also the Jaladhara Bandha, or throat lock, which is at the top in the throat. And this is said to prevent energy from leaking upwards, out of the body, upwards. And then in between the two, there is the lifting in the belly, or the belly lock, which is caused by lifting and holding in the diaphragm. So the bandhas are said to be powerful, and they are very fruitful tools for the brain, for encouraging the circulation, for stimulating the flow of prana through the nadis, and also they are said to help you remove energy blocks to ensure that the maximum amount of energy, or prana, your life force, flows throughout the body. They purify. When you apply all three, you may experience some heating, and this is because the Uddiyana Bandha, when applied with the other two Bandha, so the three Bandha applied together, or the Maha Bandha, is said to generate heat by pushing impurities towards the Agni, or the fire in the belly. So we do this to make ourselves more stable in certain poses, to purify, to stimulate your endocrine, your hormone system, and your metabolism, to create heat, and also to bring balance and harmony to the body. So when holding a bandha, it's just like any other muscle. When we hold a muscle tightly, we slightly restrict the blood flowing through it. And therefore, when we release that bandha, the circulation is restored and fresh blood, fresh nutrients are brought to that part of the body. So apart from anything else, it's also a very fruitful practice in order to restore the circulation in these vital organs. So I just would like to say a couple of precautions at this point. So it may not apply to you, but it is not advised to lift and hold the mula or root bandha if you are in the first few days of menstruation, or if you're having a heavy period. It would be uncomfortable and counterproductive. Secondly, because of the nature of the upward movement in the diaphragm pressing up towards the stomach in the Uddiyana Bandha, again, it's not advised to do that practice with a full stomach. Although it is very beneficial for tummy upsets and stomach complaints. It stimulates the digestive system and in general restores circulation to the stomach and the organs just underneath the diaphragm. So we're going to start this practice standing, and I'm going to introduce you to the sensations in the body that you will feel as we apply these three bandha. And we're going to do one at a time. And we're going to start standing, feeling the Mula Bandha. So whenever you're ready, find your feet on your mat and we'll begin the practice. Okay then, so when we use the bandha, we generally apply them bottom or root chakra, Mula Bandha first, closing off the energy from draining out through the base of the spine. And then we apply the Jalandhara Bandha, which is the throat lock, preventing energy leaking upwards through the head. And then the Uddiyana Bandha, or the diaphragm lift. And we'll just have a practice at each of these bandhas individually, just to give you a sense of where they might be and what sensations you're looking for. So again, very simple way, very simple technique for finding the Mula Bandha. So bring your feet slightly more closely together than you may normally stand. So big toe bones touching, heels slightly further apart so that the outside edges of your feet are parallel. And we'll just stand here a few minutes, lengthen and lift and stretch out your toes so you have a good quality footprint. And just make sure that, take a breath or so, just to make sure that you are steady. The weight balance between the left and right feet. Making no effort anywhere other than just to stand. So I'd like to introduce you to your Mula Bandha by asking you to use just your gaze. No movement in the body. Whenever you're ready, shifting your gaze towards the tip of the nose. And you can do this with the breath. You could breathe in, release your gaze, look ahead. And as you exhale, gaze towards the tip of the nose. So what we notice here is that by that focus downwards of the eyes and inwards towards the tip of the nose, automatically applies the bandha. So just take a few more breaths here, practicing. If it feels comfortable to hold your gaze without becoming wobbly, and perhaps if you are wobbly, you might want to take your feet a bit further apart. So it's a sense of lifting around the cervix if you're a woman, between the genitals and the anus if you're male. It's like lifting inwards and upwards. So this is the sensation of the Mula Bandha. Couple more breaths here, just to have a sense of that lifting, drawing inwards and upwards, right at the bottom of the torso. Okay, and then release. Stand with your feet a bit wider. And this time we're going to focus on the throat. And I'm going to ask you, unless it's uncomfortable for you for any reason, to do this with your tongue, the tip of the tongue, either the top of the tongue, pressing on the soft palate, or if it's not unpleasant for you, then you can curl your tongue back and press towards the palate or press on the soft palate towards the back of the mouth with the underside of your tongue. And this subtly changes the shape of your throat, and it creates a sort of an echo chamber kind of sound. There's a narrowing in the throat, and there becomes an echo chamber for the breath. So you'll be better able to hear that soft sighing sound as you breathe. And then we're going to apply the throat lock. So taking a breath in through the nostrils, back or tip of the tongue pressing on the soft palate. And as you exhale, bring the chin down, bringing the chin back towards the notch of the neck. And as you release, relax the throat and return yourself to upright. So it's not a movement we often make because it makes us look like we have a double chin. But this is the double chin that you want. Incidentally, Jalan means net, and Dahara means flow. So literally we are capping off the flow of prana upwards through the body. So back or tip of the tongue on the roof of the mouth, breathing in and out through the nostrils, creating that soft sighing sound. And then on the exhale, draw the chin back to the throat, bring your head down a little bit, tightening the muscles in the throat to create that double chin. Breathing in when you're ready to release and bringing the head back to neutral, and release the throat for a breath or two. Breathe freely. Underneath or tip of the tongue, pressing on the roof of the mouth, breathing in and out through the nostrils, noting this, making the breath smooth, not unnecessarily noisy. And when you're ready, on an out breath, draw the chin back, let the head come down. So you're gazing at the floor, lifting the muscles in the throat, tightening the throat to create that double chin. And notice here there's often an urge to hold that lock, to hold the breath out briefly. And we do that until you feel ready to release. And as you release and relax the muscles in the throat, you lift your head, returning back to neutral, breathing in. Let's try that one more time. Tip of the tongue in contact with the soft palate. As you exhale, draw the chin back, bring the head down, tightening the muscles in the throat to create that double chin. Holding the bandha for as long as it's comfortable and releasing, relaxing as your head comes back up, breathing in. Okay, so when you finish this practice, have a sigh. Very often we have the urge to swallow. Sometimes you might feel the urge to yawn. So whatever you do to relax the throat, please do. Sigh, swallow, or yawn. Oh dear. Okay, I'm going to turn to the side to show you how we find the Uddiyana Bandha. Now, Uddiyana literally translates as to fly or to rise. And we do this bandha by standing with our feet shoulder width apart, so slightly wider than your hips possibly, feet facing forward, soft knees. And then put the hands on the knees or thighs just above the knees. And if your hamstrings will allow, you could even reach the shins, but whatever is comfortable for you. So take a few breaths, lengthen the spine. So notice how you're already using the belly muscles to try and lengthen the spine. Try not to let your tail stick up or down. Neutral spine. Breathing in and out through the nose. And then on the next breath out, breathe out as much as you can and then hold it. And while you're holding that tension, make a false inhale. So you're pretending to breathe in without taking any air in. And what you probably feel here is the suction created by this false inhale. Again, release when you feel the need. And as you breathe in, gently and slowly return to upright. So let's try that again. Slide the hands down the thigh bones until you're comfortable, straight spine. And exhale, breathe out as much as you can. And then without letting any air in, make a false inhale. And then releasing, breathing through the nose as you come back to upright. So what's happening with that false inhale is the chest is expanding and it's causing the vacuum that results lifts that diaphragm even further, creating this suction. The abdominal organs feel like they're moving towards the back body. You probably feel a narrowing in the waist. So I'll show you from the front this time, see if it's any clearer. So straight spine, breathing in and out through the nostrils, always breathing through the nostrils. Remember, the nose is for breathing. And then breathe out as much as you can comfortably. And then let the chest expand to make that false inhale. And breathing in. Slowly and gently come back to upright. Take a few breaths to recover. Flying or diaphragm lifting. Slide the hands down to the thighs, knees, shins. Breathing in and out through the nose. Next exhale, breathe out as much as you can. And then expand the chest, making that false inhale. Hold it for as long as you're comfortable and then release, breathing in through the nose, coming upright. So remember the order in which we apply these bandha. We start at the bottom, move to the top, and then apply the diaphragm lift. So we might as well, while we're standing here, have a go at applying all three, because it's not often that you apply, or in fact never, I can't think of an example, where you apply the Uddiyana Bandha in isolation. So again, feet a bit wider. Soften the knees, slide your hands down to the knees. And then as you exhale, lifting the pelvic floor. Lifting and engaging that Mula Bandha. Try and keep it lifted as you take the next breath in. Next exhale, bring the throat back, bring the chin, gaze towards the navel, apply the Jalala Bandha. And then take that false inhale. And as the chest expands, feel that lifting, that constricting in the belly, that pressure upwards in the diaphragm. So again, when you're ready to release, you breathe in through the nose and you come slowly back upright. Let's try that again. So take a few breaths, normal breathing. Slide the hands down to the thighs, knees, shins. And as you exhale, lifting the Mula Bandha, bring the chin back to the throat, apply the Jalala Bandha, and then take that false inhale. Double chin, pelvic floor lift, sucking up that diaphragm, and again, releasing when you're ready, breathing through the nose, coming upright. Waiting for the breath to recover. So at your own pace, we'll do it a couple of more times. Folding forwards. Gaze towards the nose, lift the Mula, bring the chin back, apply Jalala Bandha, make that false inhale. Holding the locks for as long as it feels comfortable. And then when you're ready to release, slowly upright, breathing in through the nose. So start with the Mula, gaze towards the nostrils. Bring the chin back to the throat, gaze towards the navel. Making that false inhale, holding all those three bandha. Double chin. And release when you're ready. And return to upright. And then you can bring your feet a bit closer together. If you're steady when you're standing, you could have your toes touching, heels slightly apart, or feet hip width apart, whatever is comfortable for you. And we'll just stand. So there's no need to lock the kneecaps, no need to have any tension in your shoulders, shoulders heavy. Maybe gazing on the floor in front of you, or you can have your eyes closed if you're steady. And we just take a few breaths here, waiting for the blood and the circulation to be restored in all those places where we've been making an effort. Waiting for the breath to be restored. Perhaps waiting for the heartbeat to settle. Noticing the effects of this practice. And noticing that natural, spontaneous breath that you're now breathing. And when you're steady, we're going to begin the asana and maybe start to use some of these bandha in the asana on our hands and knees. So we're going to start with a simple asana, Marjarasana and Bitilasana, cat-cow pose. So whenever you're ready, take your time. If you're not comfortable with your kneecaps on the floor, I recommend you have a folded up blanket under your shin bones so your knees are slightly lifted from the mat to make it more comfortable for you to practice and avoid weight bearing on your uncomfortable knees. So whenever you're ready, come down to your mat, onto your hands and knees. So on your hands and knees then, ready to be a cat, and just remind yourself that cats don't do anything that they don't enjoy, and neither should you, okay? And we'll just start to work the hands into the ground. So make sure your hands are in alignment with your shoulders. Sometimes we make the mistake of having our hands too close together. So hands are directly under the shoulders, and then lengthen the fingers, trying to get some daylight between them. And we'll just start by making some small circular movements with the shoulders above the hands, just to warm up the wrists. And have a sense that as you move your weight gently forwards, and it doesn't have to come very far forwards, you can feel the tips of the fingers pressing down. But not only the tips of the fingers, we want to avoid clawing the fingers by pressing down the back, the underneath of each knuckle into the ground. So you have a really firm handprint. If you tend to hang your head, bring your neck in line with the spine. So the top of your head, the flat head, is looking forward and the eyes are gazing at the floor. Again, if you don't want your toes turned away, so you've got your tops of the feet on the floor, you can remain like that, maybe putting something under the shin bones like a rolled up blanket. Some of you might even be able to press the tops of the feet into the floor. So we're going to start with the tailbone ends, okay? So imagine that you've got a tail, and as you breathe out, tuck that tail under, lifting the pelvic floor. As you breathe in, release. You can gaze towards the nose to help you do this. Every exhale, you tuck the tail under, lifting the pelvic floor, gazing towards the nose. And every inhale, you release. Exhaling, gaze towards the nose, tuck your tail under, lifting the Maha Bandha. Inhale as you release. One more time. Gaze towards the nose. Tuck the tail under, engaging the Maha Bandha, breathing out. Inhale, releasing. And then we can take the weight out of the hands. If you don't like kneeling, then you can simply rest here, elbows on the floor, and give your hands a bit of a rest. Maybe play some air piano or rotate your wrists. If you're happy kneeling, even if you have something like a bolster or a cushion between your hips and your heels, you can do the same. Okay, so next we're going to try the Maha Bandha, so the tail, bottom, and then the throat, the Jalala Bandha. So it'll be Maha Bandha first, the root lock, and then the throat lock. And we do this by moving the head and the tail. So breathing in. You're going to lift your head and your tail, gazing forwards or upwards, sticking your tail in the air. And as you breathe out, gaze towards the nose. Maha Bandha lifts. And then gaze beyond the nose towards the navel, drawing the chin in, tightening the throat, engaging the Jalala Bandha. Releasing as you inhale through your nose, looking up, tail in the air. Gaze towards the nose to activate Maha Bandha, stick your tail under, chin to the throat, lift the throat, make your double chin. So inhaling, moving into cow pose, lifting your head and your tail on the breath in. And as you exhale, lifting the Maha Bandha, applying that chin lock, applying the Jalala Bandha. Again, notice there's a tendency here, or an urge often, to hold that pose, to hold that arch of the back, to hold that Majrasana, cat pose. Only holding for as long as you're comfortable. Head and tail in the air, breathing in, releasing all the bandha. And applying Mula first. And then Jalala Bandha in the throat at the end of that exhale. One more time. Lifting Maha Bandha first. Then Jalala Bandha in the throat. And then release as you inhale. And again, take the weight out of the hands, either elbows on the floor to release any tension in your hands, restore the circulation through the wrists and fingers. Whether elbows on the floor or kneeling, that's entirely up to you and your knees. So already with that practice, there would have been an upwards and inwards movement of the abdominals. Okay, so now we're going to take 4 or 5 cat-cow stretches, depending on the length of your breath. And you're going to lift the Maha Bandha first, then the throat lock, the Jalala Bandha, and then if you can, the Uddiyana Bandha, by once you've applied both bottom and top locks, taking that false in-breath. So we try and expand the chest without allowing any breath in. Let's give it a go. So hands under the shoulders, weight spread across and down to the tips of the fingers, across the hands and down to the tip of the fingers. Pressing down with the fronts of the shins and feet, whatever is in contact with the floor. Breathing in, head and tail up. And as you exhale, lift the Maha first. Chin lock, apply Jalala Bandha. And then take that false inhale. And as the chest expands, feel that diaphragm lifting up. Release as you breathe in, head and tail up. Feel the chest expand as you exhale, Maha Bandha, chin lock, throat lock, Jalala Bandha. Applying Uddiyana Bandha by taking that false inhale. And we release one more time as you inhale. So moving at your own pace, lifting pelvic floor, then the throat, then the diaphragm if it's comfortable for you. Releasing on the inhale and locking bottom, top, middle in that order on the exhale. Again, notice that urge to hold that breath out. Again, notice how when we're doing all three together, we call this the Maha Bandha. Notice there may be some sensation of heat. One more time then, on the exhale, lifting the Mula Bandha, applying that double chin Jalala Bandha. Take that false inhale. And releasing the Bandha on the next in-breath. Okay, and then we're just going to come down and rest. Okay, so elbows on the knees. If your hips don't reach your heels, and again, you can always settle something between your hips and heels to make it comfortable so you can rest your bottom on something, backs of the thighs on something. Takes the weight out of the knees. Maybe if your head doesn't reach the ground, you can use your arm bones as a pillow, or you could put one fist on top of another to make a pillow for your forehead, a perch for your forehead. So you don't really want your head or your tail end hanging in midair. If you can put your forehead on the floor, you can have your hands behind you, as it were, tops of the hands, the backs of the hands on the floor, and letting the elbows and the shoulders drop while we rest. And taking a few breaths here without any bandha at all. Wait for the breath to be restored. Wait for the heartbeat to settle. Breathing your natural breath through your nostrils. And then from here, one more time, coming back up to hands and knees. And this time replacing your hands, or the heels of your hands, with your elbows. So your elbows are now under the shoulders. You can have the hands, palms down on the floor, like this. Or, if you prefer, you can gently wrap one hand around the other. And I'm going to put my forehead down, which sometimes means that you need to widen your elbows. If you find this uncomfortable, you might need to bring your knees a little closer. And without applying any bandha, let's just get used to the movement. Again, if you've got a very sensitive head and the floor and the mat is too hard, you can always have a rolled up or folded blanket or a softer cushion underneath your head. So as you exhale, you're going to move your weight forwards towards the crown. And as you inhale, you move your weight backwards towards the forehead. So exhaling, hips move forward, shoulders move forward, you roll over towards the crown of the head. Notice how this movement is naturally applying that chin lock. And as you inhale, you roll back to the forehead. This is rabbit pose. Exhaling, moving the weight forwards across the top of your head. Inhale, move the weight backwards. To the hairline or forehead. One more time. could start to use the bandha. So on the next exhale, think about gazing towards the nose, lifting the Maha Bandha as the throat is folded. You could apply tension around the throat. Maybe stop and take that false inhale. And rolling back as you breathe in, releasing those locks. So starting at the bottom end first. Maha Bandha first as you breathe out and roll forward. Then Uddiyana Bandha as the throat is folded. Then take that false inhale. And release as you breathe in. And slowly roll back. Stop and rest, let the natural breath recover. So everything is resting before you roll again. So rolling forward on the exhale, applying those bandhas, starting at the bottom, then the top, then the middle if you want. And releasing as you inhale. Don't forget to use that tongue as well, either the tip of the tongue or the underneath of the tongue pressing on the roof of the mouth. Taking a few breaths to rest in between. Tongue in position, breathing normally. One more time, roll forward into rabbit pose, lifting the pelvic floor, applying Jalala Bandha, throat lock. And then if it pleases you, Uddiyana Bandha. And again from here, when you're ready to rest, you want to restore the breath, so you need to be relaxed and comfortable. So whatever modifications you need to make to child pose, please do. Head heavy, supported, either on your hands, a block, or even the floor. Elbows dropping, shoulders dropping, tailbone dropping. Waiting for the breath to be restored. Next we're going to try those bandha, or some of them at least. You can always just do the top and bottom, leaving out the Uddiyana flying bandha. If you don't feel like flying, you can leave that middle one out. And we'll try half a dog or quarter dog. So knees under hips, hands shoulder width apart, and replace your right hand with your right elbow. So the forearm is perpendicular to you. And then you can rest your head on your forearm and reach forward, maybe slightly to the side, whatever is comfortable for your shoulder. Palm of the hand pressing into the mat, fingers extended, contact all the way down the fingers. If it's comfortable for you to keep your elbow lifted, then please do. If not, if that's hurting, you can always let the elbow settle on the floor. So first of all, let's just take a few breaths here with your natural spontaneous breath. Feel the movement in the spine, in the waist, in the chest as you naturally breathe in and out. And then if it's comfortable, the next exhale, you can roll over a little bit. So you're pushing the head down, lifting the pelvic floor. So you're applying the Mula and Uddiyana Bandha. It helps here to push down with the tops of your feet or your shin bones. Take that false inhale to provide the emphasis or the impetus for the Uddiyana Bandha. And then release as you inhale. So on the exhale, lifting pelvic floor, Mula Bandha, Jalala Bandha. Let the chest expand, making that false inhale, Uddiyana Bandha, if it's comfortable. Release as you breathe in. Again, waiting for the breath to be restored. If it takes a few breaths, so be it. When you're ready, on the exhale, tucking the tail under, tucking the chin in, root lock, throat lock. Maybe let that diaphragm fly upwards. And release. Let's swap our arms. So we've got the left elbow on the floor underneath the left shoulder, forehead on the left forearm, palm down. Reach out. Again, find a comfortable parking space for your right hand. Don't have to worry about symmetry. The arm may be wider, further out to the side. You may or may not have your elbow lifted, but making good contact with the hand all the way to the fingertips. So taking a few breaths here, your natural and spontaneous breath. And notice the natural and spontaneous movements in your chest, your rib cage, your spine, your belly. Maybe using the tip of that tongue on the roof of the mouth. Next exhale, tuck your tail under, Mula Bandha. Bring the chin to the throat, Jalala Bandha. Maybe making that false inhale, letting the chest expand. Feel that diaphragm sucking up. And release as you inhale. And maybe take a couple of breaths before you go again. But we're applying these bandha by tucking the tail under, bringing the chin to the throat on the exhale. Maybe make that false inhale to apply the Uddiyana Bandha. Releasing on the inhale, waiting for the breath to recover and for the body to recover. One more time. Applying the bandha on the exhale, top and bottom. You don't have to do all three. And then waiting for the urge to breathe in to release them. Good. And then return to your comfortable version of Child pose, head supported, tailbone dropping, arms resting, shoulders dropping. No bandha at all to restrict the flow of the breath. And we just wait for the breath and the body to recover. And again, notice that natural flow of the breath. No modifications to the breath at all here. Feel the back of the body move as you breathe. So some of you from here would be quite comfortable in downward facing dog, lifting the knees off the floor. If you're not comfortable to do that, then you can modify this next position by having your hands slightly further in front of your shoulders, so that you're going to come into a modified Bitilasana or cow stretch, and then move back to a half a dog, forehead reaching towards the floor. Those of you who do feel stronger and who want to use your knees, we're going to go from cat or cow pose, cat-cow pose, to downward facing dog. So if you're doing half dog, you're not lifting the knees, yeah? You're just bringing the hips back to straighten between your hands, your shoulders and your hips. So breathing in, tailbone goes up, eyes up, no bandha here. And as you exhale, move into Majasana, cat pose. Lifting the pelvic floor, the chin lock, and release. So just connecting with those bandha at the top and bottom. And releasing any tension in the bandha as you inhale. And you can stay here if you want, or you can move your hands in front and start to move your hips back into half a dog, or the next time you're exhaling, tuck your toes under, and as you lift the pelvic floor, lift the knees, applying Mula Bandha, gaze towards the navel to make the chin lock, Jalala Bandha. Take that false inhale. And releasing as you inhale. Maybe do a couple of slinks through the spine until the breath recovers. So on the exhale, you tuck your toes under. You move the hips back, lifting the knees, lifting the Mula Bandha, gaze towards the nose, gaze towards the navel, Jalala Bandha. Maybe taking that false inhale. And releasing when you feel the urge to breathe in, knees to the ground. Turn the toes away, slink through the spine with your breath. When you're ready, on an exhale, moving into half dog or downward facing dog, lifting the Mula, Jalala Bandha, maybe the Uddiyana Bandha by taking that false inhale. And releasing when you feel the urge to breathe in. One more time. applying the locks on the bottom, then the top, and then the middle if you want to. But responding to that urge to breathe in by releasing yourself from the pose, and again coming back to rest in your comfortable version of child pose. No effort at all. And waiting for everything to stop moving and for the breath to be restored. And from here, again with as little fuss as possible, minimum of effort, stretch out so that you are belly down on your mat. I'm just going to control my hair so it doesn't get in my way. So elbows this time under the shoulders, so the upper arms are perpendicular to the floor, hands palms down, shoulders back and away from the ears. Neck long. And again, just using the gaze. So as you breathe in, gaze forward or even upwards. And as you breathe in, gaze down towards the floor. Breathing in, gazing up. And breathing out, gazing down. Again, trying to keep all of that movement within the breath. Not moving or pausing when the breath is pausing. No bandha at this point, just moving with the breath. And notice that although it's not a big movement, as you bring your head down, the belly or abdomen is moving away from the floor, upwards and inwards, quite naturally, without any effort at all. So if you wanted to, the next time you're exhaling and bringing the chin down, you could push down with the tops of your feet, lift that Maha Bandha, bring the chin to the throat, make that double chin, make the chin lock, make that false inhale. And then release as you inhale, look up. Exhaling, lifting pelvic floor, chin lock. Uddiyana Bandha, let that diaphragm fly up. Release as you inhale. Exhale, lifting the Mula, Jalala Bandha. Uddiyana Bandha if you can. Release as you inhale. Look up. One more time. Mula first, then the throat, then the diaphragm. And then release. All the way down to the floor. And again, if you find it comfortable to have your head slightly lifted, which gives a bit of a stretch to the throat and the neck, you can have one hand on top of the other. Let your toes come together so the heels flop out and release any tension in the legs. And we'll just breathe. Waiting for the breath to be restored. Again, if you feel the urge to yawn, swallow or sigh to relax any tension from the throat that you might be holding unnecessarily, please do. then just in the interest of balance, you can lift your head away from the floor just a little bit so that you can repark your hands one on top of the other. Turn your head the other way and rest the other temple on the back of the hand, or on the floor, or on a blanket or pillow if you prefer. And just take a few breaths here. You can relax any tension in the face, the mouth, and let the breath get restored. And then from here, again, making the minimum of fuss, taking your time and moving as gently as possible. Roll over so that you come onto the back body, resting on the back body now, semi-supine. So the feet are on the floor. Again, don't just plonk your feet any old where. Find where your comfortable footprints are. Elbows away from the body so that you're not restricting your breath or movement in the chest with your arm bones. Backs of the hands on knuckles on the floor. Weight balanced directly in the center of your head. If your head tends to tilt back, put something underneath the back of your head. Small block or a folded up blanket. And we just observe that natural movement of the breath, breathing your natural spontaneous breath. And when your breath is restored, we're going to begin to move very gently and very slowly into some supine twists. So bring your feet so that they're closer to you. It's important you keep your feet on the floor. You don't want to use any unnecessary effort in the abdomen. Arms at shoulder height, and it's worth just checking by rolling your head to one side and then the other, just to make sure your arms are in fact not by your face but at shoulder height. And then as you breathe out, we're going to take the opportunity and follow the out breath into a twist, rolling over the sides to the right, sides onto the right side to the feet so the knees come down to the right. Finish that breath out, and when you're breathing in, roll back to the center. So you've got both footprints on the floor. When the next breath out, you roll over onto the left sides of your feet. So you're breathing and twisting at the same time. And then you wait for the breath in to bring your feet back again to neutral. Both footprints return to the floor. So as you move your legs to the right, you may feel an urge to let your chin go to the left. Knees and nose going in opposite directions. Wait for the urge to breathe in to come back to center. So briefly at the peak of the in-breath, you've got both feet on the floor and the weight is in the back of your head, directly in the center. Breathing out and twisting, using the weight of the legs, no effort at all here, no bandha. And you wait for the breath in, untwisting as you're breathing in, and twisting as you're breathing out. So go at your own pace with this, no bandha at all. And the reason why I've chosen this, and why we're doing it super gently, moving when the breath is moving, pausing when the breath is pausing, is so that we restore and stretch out the muscles in the throat and in the belly and round the waist. Keep rolling, knees going one way, maybe your nose going in the other way. Breathing out, twisting, and breathing in, untwisting. I'm going to keep this asana going, moving, gently moving with the breath. For another few breaths. So we began this asana by moving onto the right sides of the feet and moving the knees to the right. So the next time you've moved to the left, come back to neutral. If you have an urge to repark your footprints, slide your arms a little closer to you so that you're resting. Draw the chin to the throat so you take advantage of the length you've created in the back of the neck. Weight balanced in evenly on the feet, in the hips, in the shoulders, shoulder blades and arms, and into the center of the back of the head. Eyes closed, just breathing. Noting that natural movement in the spine as you're breathing in and out. And then, because the last two poses, both Sphinx and the twist, are a gentle back bend, so we're going to lift up the feet one at a time, hands on the knees, gazing at or between the legs. And any movements you want to make, any squeezing or rocking gently from side to side, closing the eyes. So this is a very restful position, very easy on the spine with the weight of the arms and legs above the body, above the torso. So any movement you need to make to restore and release any undue unnecessary tension in the back, please do. And then gently and slowly, one leg at a time so that you don't disturb that breath. Feet down, hands down. Flop the hands so the thumbs are further away from you. So palms upwards. Maybe you'd like to straighten out your legs. Do this one at a time. Feet wider than your hips for sure. So maybe towards the corners of your mat, if you have your legs extended. And we'll just take a few breaths here. And be mindful of the breath that you are now breathing, because we are just about to practice some pranayama. So it's useful to know how the breath is before we practice with the breathing exercises. So noticing that natural spontaneous breath, no bandha, no effort, no edits. Just notice how that breath is right here, right now, atta. So right this moment, notice the flow of the breath. And then so that you don't disturb that breath, moving super gently and super slowly to a comfortable sitting position. So if you've got your legs extended, maybe bend the left leg, put the left foot on the floor, roll onto your right shoulder and use your left hand to peel yourself off the floor. And you don't have to sit cross-legged. You can use a chair. If you're not used to sitting cross-legged, then a chair is a great idea. Or you could lean against the wall. You could sit on pillows, blankets, bolsters, whatever you need to make yourself completely comfortable so that we can sit still for a few minutes and breathe together. So whichever sitting position you choose to be in, make sure you're comfortable. You don't have to be sitting on the floor, you don't have to be sitting cross-legged. But you do need to be comfortable because we're going to be sitting here a few minutes so that we can do 8 rounds of Nadi Shodhana, which is the balancing breath that we practiced at the end of last month's classes. So it's a very simple process. Remember, if you get lost, that you're breathing in through one nostril and out of the other. In through one side and out of the other. And it helps you, if it helps, to picture a flow of the breath in a figure of 8, in and out through the nostrils, alternating nostrils, then please use that as a tool. So, once you're sitting, whether you're on a chair or on the floor, regardless, if you're sitting on a chair, don't forget that very often chairs are man-sized. So you need to be having something to lift the feet, just so you've got some support underneath the feet. So a thick book or a yoga block very often will do the trick. And make sure you're not slouching. Yeah, just find enough muscle to sit up straight without causing any rigidity in the middle of the body. So having worked quite hard with the bandha, this week we're going to just use one of the bandha, which is the Mula Bandha or root bandha. And we're going to make that effective on the exhale. Now, some of you might find it comfortable to maintain the lift of the bandha through an inhale. And if you're comfortable with that, then that's absolutely fine. But you need only use it on the exhale if you're new to this practice. So before we do anything further, I'm just going to ask you just to see if you can connect with that Mula Bandha, that pelvic floor lift, the root lock, if you like. And right on cue, here's Bert. So from your sitting position, just use your eyes and just gaze towards the tip of your nose. And just feel that slight upward. It's not a clenching, your buttocks don't tighten, your inner thighs don't lift. It's just a lifting in the pelvic floor. So every time you're exhaling, you're just bringing your focus to the tip of your nose. Feeling the sensations at the cervix if you're a woman, and between the genitals and the anus if you're a male. And as I explained, you may find it easy to maintain that lift while you're breathing in, but if you don't, if it naturally releases as you breathe in, then don't worry about it. And then just see if we can use our imaginations here. The next time you're breathing out, imagine that you're trying to levitate, that you're trying to lift away from the floor. And And again, that might help you to connect with the sensation of that Maha Bandha as it rises as you're breathing out. And if you want, you can combine these two efforts, that sensation of lifting as you exhale and the gazing towards the tip of the nose. And having connected with that sensation of that Maha Bandha, then we can begin to start the alternate nostril breathing. And we do that by making the Murgi Mudra. So the first two fingers of your right hand press in towards the heel of the thumb, and you use your fourth finger and your thumb to close the nostrils right near the bridge of the nose, not on the flared part of the nostrils, so that you keep your hand well away from the nostrils. And if you want, you can support that right arm with your left hand. So the hand just hovering above the nose, breathing in and out through both nostrils. Trying to engage that Maha Bandha when you are breathing out. And the next time you're exhaling, engage the Maha Bandha and breathe out on the left nostril. In the pause, wait for the urge to breathe in and breathe in through the left. In the pause, change nostrils and breathe out through the right nostril, lifting the Maha Bandha. Take a pause and wait for the urge to breathe in through the right nostril. In the pause, change nostrils, breathe out on the left. So we're back to where we started, and that counts as one round. Breathe in on the left. Change nostrils, breathe out on the right, lifting Maha Bandha. So is inhale through the right. Change nostrils, breathe out on the left, lifting the Maha. 2 rounds. Keep it going at your own pace. In one side. In the pause, change nostril and out on the other. And every time you're exhaling, lifting the Maha Bandha. Always in through one side, out through the other. Completing the breath and using the bandha. So here we're encouraging the prana to stay within the sushumna, or the spinal cord, not allowing the prana to drain out of the body, keeping that Maha Bandha lifted every time you exhale. So the next time you complete a round, the next time you find yourself breathing out through the left, then you can release your right arm, palms up or palms down, resting your hands on your thighs, and return to breathing a natural, spontaneous breath through both nostrils. And you can sit for as long as you like, letting go of any edits that you may have made to the breath. Noticing the effects of this practice on your breath and on the mind. And then in as easeful way as possible, trying not to disturb that breath that we've been nurturing. Moving onto the floor to rest in Shavasana. Or you could have something behind the thighs if you want your knees slightly lifted. You could have your feet on the floor if that's more comfortable for your lumbar spine. Maybe something under the head. Cover up with a blanket. So whatever additions, amendments you need to make, so that we can be still for a short while, please make them now. You can scan through your body, beginning to practice Shavasana by noticing the points at the back of the body where you are in contact with the floor. And allowing yourself a moment to settle. So there's no effort in the body, nothing clenching, giving into gravity, and the breath is also effortless. The mind is still awake and alert. But focused. Turning inward. And perhaps there's a growing sense of stillness. So this rest, Shavasana, at the end of our practice, it isn't our attempt to run away from the outside world and all its distractions. It's our opportunity to reconnect with this sense of peace, of stillness, of calm that is always yours. Our practice leads us towards it. And it's a gift, a siddhi, your chance to reclaim your sense of stillness. And in doing so, we reclaim ourselves in spite of what might be going on around us. At this moment, the body, the breath, and the mind are relaxed, calm, at ease. And as the words fade, we move inwards, turning the eyes inwards, turning the ears inwards, turning the sensations of the skin inwards. And we can reconnect to that sense of joy. The joy of the just being here. Experiencing those sensations of life. Perhaps your eyes might turn to look down towards the heart. Remember, every breath you take, you're welcoming fresh prana. Welcoming that prana into every part, every cell of your body. And here, you can stay for as long as you like. You don't have to get up. You don't have to get on with things. Whenever you're ready, when you feel rested, that's when you move. And perhaps when you do move, you might choose to roll over onto your right side and come into that asana we spent the first 9 months of our lives in, rolling onto the right hand behind the head. So your right arm is now your pillow. And then maybe draw your knees in a little bit closer. And you can slide your left arm between the thighs to connect the hand to the foot, the shin, the ankle. And perhaps you might want to stay here for a few more minutes. Exploring the world again. Firstly with your ears. Maybe they might pick up some of the sounds in the room around you. Let them venture further, perhaps listening to passing cars or the weather. Other people. But the most important thing about this part of this practice, this coming back to life, is that you do so in your own time. There's no rush. You're in your own personal space. So you can take your time. And I would like to thank you for sharing the practice, and hope that you keep this peaceful feeling with you for the rest of your day. Namaste.